Hi, everyone. Welcome to the BizDev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, and I am joined by asparagus grower extraordinaire Gary Voigt. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. After Thanksgiving and all the asparagus, you can imagine what our restrooms smell like.
Yeah, I know that asparagus pea, but I love asparagus. I actually have a little asparagus garden myself. Takes a couple of
All
years
right.
for it to grow,
Me
though.
and John are asparagus
Yeah.
enthusiasts. There you go.
Got two of us here,
This
two
went a
experts.
weird direction. I did not see this coming. That'll teach me. All right. That third voice you hear is John Lee, who is our guest this week. He is the CEO of Anewgo. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
I think I am.
Make a new goal of it.
Easy peasy. They are a real estate marketing and sales platform, tech-based, which is always fun for us. So tell me a little bit about Anewgo and what you guys do.
Okay, well, Anewgo actually started back in 2001. We started out as a rendering house. I used to work in Silicon Valley, so I have a knack of kind of like starting new things in the middle of bad times, which I came out of the dot-com bust. When I was in Silicon Valley, I learned a lot about technology and how it can transform the world. And so I moved back from Silicon Valley back to Raleigh, North Carolina. And over here, even though the economy was bad overall, there were still a lot of people moving over here. And I've always been interested in real estate. I actually got a real estate license when I was younger. And I said, hey, if there's an industry to disrupt, it probably is the residential industry because it's the biggest industry in the U.S. and the world, and new homes is a subset of that. I mean, actually 2/3 of the people want to buy new homes, but only like 10-15% actually do. And part of that is because it's just a terrible user experience. But the one thing when I came back here, I realized, obviously, it's actually obvious, but don't really think about it. New homes don't exist. So how are you going to buy the most complex, expensive, probably collaborative purchase and investment that you happen to be living in sight unseen? Well, I used to ride around with grandma real estate agent all weekend, visiting farm fields and going to a sales center and looking at a generic illustration of a house and basically betting the farm on that being your dream home. And you had to do that with your spouse. And if you did it wrong, it was a major mistake. So I said, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to disrupt that. So the first thing I realized is we need to actually render the houses. So that's why we came up with the name Rendering House. But over the last 20 years, actually, the Great Recession came in there about 2009 or so. And, one of the things I learned that during that time was, as my competitors were failing, I was like, well, the builders that come out of here are going to have to do something new in the way they do sales and marketing. And, millennials are starting to grow up, the iPhone, the iPad were coming out. And I said, look, we need to become a software company, so that buyers can now not only just see a generic rendition of a house, but be able to custom design their house, online. And so it's been a decade in the making, but in 2020, we actually formed the company Anewgo. Basically, don't buy new homes the old way, make a new go of it. So with that, not only can you design, your house, exterior colors, materials, floor plan options, even down to the kitchen sink, and then actually buy a home site. You can also see the price and real-time mortgage calculating, which is very important now, given the cost of homes and interest rates. And so now we're allowing buyers to be able to find, design, experience, which is where we bring in virtual tours and augmented reality to let you not just tour a generic house, but be able to design and tour it, find, design, experience, and then buy your home online like you can every other product. And fortunately, the millennials have grown up, the ones that play video games. Now they actually have purchasing power. Now they're the biggest buyer of new homes, and they can buy remotely. And that's what we're catering to.
So, knowing a bit about the housing industry, when we were looking to custom build a home years ago, we got stopped because it was a lot more expensive than, say, ours ended up being a Lennar home. Because we
work with them, they're one of our clients.
A ridiculous scale, right? And so, if you're building and designing a custom home, I assume that you're targeting the upper tier market.
Yes, well, we actually service all types of builders, from large national builders that build in communities to small custom home builders. And 2/3 of the 50,000 builders out there actually build less than 5 homes a year. So those are the custom, semi-custom homes, and they build on your land. But yeah, we take the plans from the builders. So it's not like the buyers can just totally design on their own. We take plans from the builders, and we allow we create 3D models of them. And so with these 3D models, we allow the buyers to now take control and be able to design those elements. So we do work with, builders of all sizes, and both high end and low end.
Yeah, I was actually playing around on it the other night.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, because some of the builders that you have as clients are in the area near where I live, Vieira Home Builders. And so I was like, oh, let me check out these new developments. And what's really cool about this, David, is you can pick the area that they're developing, whether they've, completed houses or not. You can pick that set of property, that, community that they're developing. You can select from the models that they offer. And then from there, you can start picking out like paint, stucco colors, trim colors, your roof shingles, and you can go inside and start like picking what you can put here and there, and it renders in real time as you choose it. So yeah, one of my questions was going to be, you have to acquire all these plans from each one of your clients, each one of the builders, for every model and every option that is possible. And then you have to visualize that and put that into this engine that's going to render it in real time for the person buying the home. That seems like an almost impossible task. How is that process happening?
And not just that. We have to bring in from the ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning System, all the pricing and all the
For
lot
every
status.
single option as well.
Right. Every single option has a price. Different homes in different neighborhoods have different prices, and different lots have different prices and availability. Could be inventory home, could be a model home, could be a design home. And to be able to bring that all up in real time, and also utilize AI to recommend, hey, this house, you can design it, but you can actually buy that same house already built, but in this already predefined color scheme or options. So to have all that AI working in the background to play this grand recommendation matchmaking game, it takes a lot of data, and it's all done in the cloud. I mean, we use a combination of GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and as well as AWS, and even Microsoft Azure. So all this stuff is all working together to make all these visualizations and pricing and information come together. And we also bring in DocuSign and Stripe, so you can do payments.
Oh, wow.
In contract.
So I know that I'm going to pick your brain and go a little nerdy here. I know that when people start companies, they have a software idea, no matter what it is, but they have some sort of software idea, and they have no idea what to do with it, right? That's a lot of our clients. They come to us with that idea. How do I make this happen? So what was that process like for you when you're like, dude, I got this great idea, whether it's the rendering part, whichever phase of the company you want to talk about. I got this great idea to do, unless you're the developer, which I'm guessing you're not, but maybe you are. That first version, you're like, okay, I need that CTO. I find a lot of startups die on the hill of, I need a CTO.
Right.
So how was that process for you?
Well, for us, before we needed the CTO, that's when we became a software company. But before that, we were a rendering company. So I actually had to learn how to do art. And there's nothing like going in and learning how to do it yourself. So I actually became, even though I have an MBA in finance, when I was in Silicon Valley, I was raising venture capital. I actually had to sit there and learn how to draw a house and how to render it. And I even went to watercolor classes back then, and then learned how to do it digitally. So there's a part where you just have to engross yourself in it, because if you don't have the skills and you don't have the passion, you really don't have a future there, because you're going to peter out before you rise up. So I had to learn through all that stuff. And one of the unique things in us being a startup was I didn't raise money in doing this. We bootstrapped the whole thing, but I was able to utilize our clients' resources. I mean, one of the first things we did is, I didn't have all these computers, and this is back in 2001, 2002, all this hardware. So we used to go to our clients' offices and use their computers, and we work there at night when they're gone. I mean, one of the crazy things one day is we show up, we were there working overnight, and these employees came in and said, hey, when you join? I said, we're actually your clients. We're just using your computers at night so we can render all this stuff, because back then you didn't have the internet to go and upload, download, and all this stuff, and we had to do it right there on their servers. But when we were actually working there with them, we actually got to learn what their needs are. So one thing is to really be close to your customers and find that niche early on. And then for me, I started to looking down the road. I had all these milestones. I knew that content was king, but it wasn't ultimately where I wanted it to be. I knew that software and data, data is the gold mine. And so we actually started out being content creators, but then we became a software company. And ultimately, this is what we just started last month. We created Anewgo.com, which is now a portal, a marketplace, so that you can shop across thousands of builders, plans, communities, options, home sites, and be able to virtually design and compare it, collaboratively shop, online. You can't do that right now. You go to Zillow, Realtor.com, and all those other places. First of all, new homes, it's just a straw man to buy a used home. I mean, they're mainly showing existing homes from MLS and advertising real estate agents.
Right.
But if you want to buy a completely new home, there's no place to really do that. There's not even a Got Milk campaign for new homes. Like, you don't even know how to buy a new home. What are the advantages? What does it entail? So we want to make Anewgo a new go-to destination, so you learn when, where, and why to buy new, and then give you the means to actually fulfill that dream. So I was thinking about the end before I even started the beginning. And that's very hard for a lot of, I think, startups. They're always thinking about what's the next milestone. I'm thinking about what is the finish line.
Yeah. Or at what point will this make enough money for me to sell and get out?
Right. There's always an exit plan. I mean, I like to cross the finish line, but I have all along every milestone. I probably shouldn't divulge all this, but there's an exit ramp all along the way. I mean, something could happen to me, something could happen to a company. And if the opportunity arises, and sometimes it's macroeconomic factors. But every time I can hit that next milestone, I'm hungry to go after the next one, because we start to separate from our competitors.
It's interesting. One of the things when we talk to our clients, I have this concept called before you're awesome and once you're awesome, right? And before you're awesome is when no one cares and you're
right.
the only one yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And then once you're awesome is you have your own gravity and people are paying attention to you.
Exactly.
And what I find a lot of startups, in particular, founders who are pre-startup, I guess I should say, they get stuck because they talk about once they're awesome. And often those are very different companies because you're solving a very different problem.
Yes.
But it sounds like you were saying, hey, shoot for the stars at the beginning. You're seeing the far future. How do you rectify that?
I see the roadmap, but I know at each stage, just like a rocket getting into orbit, I need to bring in certain people. So there was a time when, right before I became a software company, it wasn't like in 2020 when we became Anewgo, that's when I hired my CTO. I actually hired my CTO like 6-7 years before, because we have to change the whole process. It's not just software engineering, it's process engineering. The way, instead of people manually creating all these renderings, we're creating software to create a real-time rendering engine. But then we're also keeping an eye out what's happening in the marketplace. As things move to the cloud, we no longer relying on local servers to do this. We can do it in the cloud, and we can do it on your mobile device. And it takes, when I say great ingenuity, it takes many different types of engines to do this. And we're in a very unique industry and product that requires, to do the fine part, you need an AI engine, you need a search engine. You need even a matchmaking engine, because people don't really want to search across all these thousands of plans, communities, options, and everything. They want to just kind of put in their profiles or fill out a quiz and then bring it all together and just notify me when like Uber or Match.com. But then the second phase, that define and then design, we have to build our own cloud rendering engine. There isn't a visualization technology that takes all these CAD files, creates 3D models of it, and then lets you render it in real time. Actually, our biggest client is actually not even a builder. Our biggest client is Sherwin-Williams, because they were getting a tons of sales from people designing their own homes and ordering paint. And then the third part of it is people not only want to see what they're getting, they want to experience it. They've never been able to experience their new homes before they moved in. So that's why we have virtual tours. But what we want to bring in there is coming from the gaming industry, which Epic Games is just right down the street from us here. A gaming engine, so that people can not only just tour a generic house, they can tour their unique house, because who wants to look at somebody else's countertop? You want to look at your countertop with your prices and virtually live through that whole shopping and also construction phase. You see what's coming to life. And then the last part is actually the easiest part, which has been around a long time, is the e-commerce engine. So that's when we're we're merging marketing and sales online, which used to be two separate functions. Traditionally in home building, the marketing people drove you to the website or got you to the sales center, and then the salesperson took over. So like you used to go to Best Buy after you read a circular or something.
Yeah.
Now it's all happening online, and it's across omni-channel. So what we're doing is now on the buy part, not only can you design your home, but we're tying it with, this is where prop tech meets fintech. Fintech, one of the biggest resources of income is actually from real estate, all the mortgages, all the insurance, all that stuff. So we have to bring in, like DocuSigns for the real-time contracts, digital contracts, and then we bring in Stripe to bring in all the financial transactions. Ultimately, this can lead to blockchain and crypto, because if you can bring in the authenticity and transparency and do it in real time and have a immutable distributed ledger online, I'm probably getting too techy here. It really takes a huge, complex, burdensome, expensive process and really streamlines it, and maybe it reduces the cost to make new homes not just desirable and less risk, but actually more financially attractive than a used home. Why would you buy a used home that had a lot of stuff that you liked, but a lot of stuff you didn't like, and it's all outdated, when you can design the home the way you want it and only pay for the things that you want, as opposed to inheriting even a new home, things that you didn't want, that you had to pay a premium for and maybe rip it out.
Had this technology been around when we got our home, like we had it built, but of course we had to pick, go to the sales center, like you said, look at the brochures for which model, pick a model, go through a few samples of what possible colors we are allowed to get. And then
right.
The customization options were very hard to pick from, because you only had that little CAD diagram and then the word of the salesperson, and then you see the big price difference and you're like, what am I really getting for that huge jump in price? And then it would take another 15 to 20 minutes for them to come back with another estimate of what that cost would be if it's worked into your finances and stuff like that. So like,
right.
Into the mortgage and everything. So streamlining that process and having the actual visceral joy of seeing this home of your dreams being put together on screen and be able to walk through it, that's a huge, huge step forward. And it's something that definitely I would have really enjoyed, instead of just feeling like I might be taken advantage of when we were
exactly.
Stuff in our house.
A lot of people think of like new home salespeople or real estate agents. I shouldn't say this because these are some of my clients. They kind of think of them as kind of almost like used car salesmen. They're painting a picture. They're trying to, get you and your spouse all wrapped up in this, but you're all envisioning this in your mind, and what you're envisioning versus what your wife may be totally different things. At least a used car salesman, you can see the car right there. You can kick the tires. You can take it for a drive. You're being sold something that you're going to be living in. It's a representation of you and your status and your investment and your life. And you're going to buy this sight unseen, and you don't even know what the price of any options are, or you don't have a context or reference point of what the value of anything is, much less without seeing it.
Again, you mentioned prop tech and fintech, and I'm guessing, and just for our audience, I'm assuming that means property technology and finance technology.
Right, exactly. Well, you see what happens is when housing costs, I mean, mortgage lenders, I mean, they're dying. They're on deathbed because, I mean, they're so dependent upon the housing industry. As particularly new homes, every new home job actually creates 3 other jobs. So that's why, beyond my passion of technology, I feel like we can get the economy going if we can, continue to build and to make it affordable for consumers. And one of the biggest costs is not even the financial; it's that fear, that risk. I actually think a lot of people are actually dropping out. That 85% dropout rate is not in the design phase; it's actually in the find phase. They cannot find across 50,000 builders all the communities, all the plans, all the options, and put it all together. It doesn't even get to design; they just can't find it. And millennials don't want to ride around.
The process can seem completely overwhelming,
right.
Especially if you feel like you're not finding what you're looking for in a short amount of time. Then you're probably going to feel like, well, we'll just keep waiting and keep waiting and keep waiting. You mentioned one of your largest clients was Sherwin-Williams. Now, I remember years ago reading something about, I guess it was a developer that used to work for Facebook and then went into business for himself and helped define this AI tech to help visualize like you said, painting in your home, where you can do like an AR augmented of your home and pick the paint colors to what they were selling and see how it would affect your room, even during different parts of the day. Now, is that something that you were involved in, or does that have any connection to what you were working with Sherwin-Williams?
Well, I can't say too much because we're technically white labeled to them, so I'm probably
Okay.
already saying more than I should.
So if I mention the developer's name, it's probably not a good thing then.
I probably wouldn't say, I wouldn't
I
affirm or
won't.
deny,
Oh,
but what happened was with Sherwin Williams about 4 or 5 years ago, they called me up, and I was surprised why they called me up, and they said that all of a sudden they saw a spike in their new home paint sales. And they're wondering why, and they're asking their salespeople, "What'd you guys do different?" And they said, "We still do the same thing. We pull out our little color wheel and we say, imagine this," and everybody's looking at these swatches and trying to imagine how their house is and all these different colors. And then they kept digging deeper, and they're finding out that the apps, because we create the apps, the color design apps for probably over 300 builders, and when the buyer is using that app to design and visualize their homes, we have all the major paint vendors in our system, all the color libraries from all the paint vendors in North America, as well as like most of the stone and brick. So now they're actually able to design that and figure out who to buy from. And so then they asked us to go create their own Sherwin-Williams app. And now one of the things that they're asking us to do, because what they want to do is to cover every room, sell every surface in the room. So they do cover every surface except for what? The flooring.
floor. Yeah.
So what they want to do, and that helps sell the wall paint and the ceiling paint, is now we're using AI. And this is where kind of like the DALL-E stuff kind of comes in. Looking at taking a photo. Before we're doing this based on 3D modeled homes, but now we're
Just
doing it from
textures.
photograph.
Okay.
Yeah, so you take a photo of it, it can detect the perspectives and the flooring and the surfaces, and now you can overlay hardwood, and we just did this for them. I don't know if they released it yet, but like whether you want hardwood, tile, carpet, and now it lays out that pattern and perspective, and then you can also choose the wall colors. So now you can sell all surfaces of that interior space, and we can also do our exterior as well.
Cool.
So that's been a great business model for us. And one of the things that for us, even though we're creating a lot of this for builders and real estate agents and architects and developers, the real financial opportunity is really with all the peripheral services. Like we have a partnership with OfferPad. So a lot of times when you want to buy a new house, you have to sell an old house. Well, why not offer an opportunity to buy your old house while you're in that process? If you need a realtor, you can bring that in. If you need a loan, it says, hey, I need to get pre-qualified before I start shopping. You get pre-qualified there, and then the good thing for them is they don't shop beyond their means. Nothing worse than designing Taj Mahal and then find out you can't live there and then explain it to your wife. So it
Client
puts it all in
budget
there.
versus client reality.
Yes, but that for the builder, it gives them affirmation that I'm not wasting time on a lead that cannot afford the house.
Yeah.
So they're already pre-qualified for $500,000. You only see things that you can afford for $500,000. So we're trying to use technology. It's not just about the visualization technology, but there's the fundamental thing that we want to change is actually the way you search for homes. You can use searches, and what we've done in the marketplace is we brought the search engine into the marketplace. Right now, you use Google to search to find websites, but then when you go to websites, there's actually no search engine there to find the house that you want. Why not bring the search engine like Amazon into your marketplace so you can actually find the house and options you want? But even better than that, have filters so you can tag, hey, I only want a brick house, I only want a craftsman, I only want with outdoor kitchens and whatever, and pools with community pools. So you pull in those, it only shows you, the 50 out of the 5,000 options out there. So you have a starting point, then you can design it. But the even better thing is to use matchmaking technology where the buyer fills out a quiz just like they would on like their Uber preferences or Netflix preferences or Match.com. And then it brings in those builders, those communities, those plans that match that. But then this is where it really changes is using that same matchmaking technology, let the builders now shop the buyers. And how do they shop the buyers? Identify the type of buyers that you want. I want somebody who can afford $500,000 that's going to move in 3 months that actually wants to live next to power lines and wants a dog park. And so what happens when somebody has those characteristics and it matches up, now it's a great match. So your likelihood of sales conversion in a win-win scenario, it jumps up. And then the other measurement that you have, once you have that matching piece, is engagement. So we have an engagement score by each buyer because every buyer has their own shopping cart, their own buyer's portal. So just because we're a great match doesn't mean that you're going to buy unless I see a lot of engagement. And if you're not engaged, that's when I, as a builder, would send out a salesperson to talk to you. But if you're on autopilot, you have high engagement, you're designing your house, and you're saving favorites and eliminating and doing all that stuff, get the salesperson out of the way. Save on your money, save on your commission. That's what we want to do. The real estate industry is one of the biggest tech laggards of all the industries. I always say they're slow to innovate, but they're quick to emulate. So once some builders start to adopt it, consumers are already there, then I think other builders will jump on board.
Okay.
So I want to take a big step back. You mentioned something that was interesting to me. You said that as the founder, if you're not willing to get in there and learn, you're not going to succeed. So I want to kind of dig into that. So let's say you are building a more traditional software as a service. Would you recommend that founder, if you're talking to, say I'm coming to you for advice, would you recommend that you need to learn to code?
No, I'm not saying I need to be an expert at it, but how do I know what the customer wants? How do I know where the problems are or who to hire if I don't have an idea? I mean, if me and Gary here are asparagus farmers, if I didn't go out there and start to, see how to dig it, when to harvest it and all that, I think all my plants would just die. And I think there's a part here, there's a company culture aspect of it too. Because we're doing something innovative and we're kind of all in there together, I think at least in the camaraderie, there's a sense that we're all taking risk and we're all, working hard to try. It's not just me in the back, like on a dog sled, just whipping them, say run faster. But there's at some point here when they're on track, I step away because then I start to get in the way. So I end up becoming more of the band leader as opposed to be a band player. But it's an evolution. For some people, that could be just a few months. For some people, it takes a few years.
Yeah, like 10 years.
Yeah, it could be 10 years. And the market keeps changing.
So how do you, I guess I should back up. How big is Anewgo people-wise?
Right now, we have about 60 employees.
Okay. And you guys are in an office all over the place. Where are you guys?
We have our headquarters in a 7,000 square foot brand new office in downtown Holly Springs, but obviously with technology, we have people all over the world. I mean, we actually have some subs in Czech Republic. We have some people in Argentina, but we have sales and marketing in different places, and we just opened a new office in Irvine, California. So it is a remote process, but a lot of the innovation does happen at headquarters because there's just some benefit of moving quickly and learning quickly together.
So you believe that being in the office is an advantage?
Even when we're in the office, like right now I'm working from home, even when we're in the office, it's not like everybody's in there from 9 to 5 every day. But there are times here where, we do get together. So I leave it up to each department head. I mean, depends what projects they're working on, what kind of R&D type of things. But I would say half of our people are working remotely.
Okay. I just find it interesting today, after the pandemic, the theories of office are pretty, what is an office now, have gotten so broad. Some people are like Apple, for instance, which, I mean, I get it, they have $1 billion headquarters. But
they just invested $1 billion into their spaceship.
They want people to enjoy it. Yeah.
But they are very hardcore about, and obviously Elon Musk now, you come to the office. This is where magic happens. We are doing magic. You need to be here to be part of it. And then there's people the other side, like us, but much larger companies that are purely remote and are building the tools and doing what you need to be remote, successful remotely. And then I find there's a lot of guys kind of in the middle. Hey, we want to come in. Some of our clients, you have to come in. Some of them are, sometimes you can work from home.
I think for particularly our new employees, just so they get the proper training and the right culture and mentorship and know who to talk to, it's good that they come in and work for them, and work in the office with them. And that's why some of our senior people come in, is to help in mentoring them and guiding them. And once they're on track, we let go. I don't think it's fair to just bring somebody into our new industry with a new product and say, well, here, go develop something.
It's fair.
Because we have scrum meetings, we have project deadlines, and if one person if one dog runs in a different direction, the whole sled kind of flips over. But it's a balance. I don't know there's a right recipe. I mean, 3 years ago before COVID, I would have said, hey, we all had to be in office, and now they've proven that they can do it remotely and very efficiently. And actually, all of our clients are remote. I hardly even see our clients in person anymore.
So when you talk to someone like Lennar or a big company,
Yep.
and this is a big investment for them, right? Regardless of how much, it's a big connection. Do they still require to meet you face to face, or are they completely fine with never meeting you in person?
I've met with Lennar one time out of the last 10 years that we worked with them. So
was that in the very beginning when you guys were establishing your relationship?
Yes, because and they're unique because they're still a large corporation, so they still have a large corporation mentality. But a lot of the smaller builders, just a phone call, emails, have worked fine even before Zoom. And I think part of it is because once we establish a level of credibility in this industry, I mean, on day one, and back then we didn't have technology, I used to have to walk the streets of Raleigh with my partner, with three of us. One would sit back and they look on MapQuest to see where the next architect or housing company was, and they on our StarTech cellular phones back then. And then the other two would have to walk the streets, and there'd be signs: no soliciting, no loitering, and we'd be sitting there with a photo album of renderings trying to sell to get past the secretary. And I said, look, we have to do this a different way because it's not efficient, and we actually don't get any production done because we're literally walking the streets, and it's 90 degrees, 100% humidity out there. And I said, when I was in Silicon Valley, there was this company called Google, and believe it or not, there are people out there that are actually looking for our services instead of us knocking on doors and trying to get them to buy our stuff. And my partners were very leery about this, and they said, how's this work? And I said, well, there are people that put in these keywords, and then we advertise on that. And then when they click on that, we pay Google. And so they're really worried. They said, well, why have a million people click on it? We owe $1 million. Back then it was only like 10 cents each, so maybe $100,000 or something. I said, well, you can put a dollar limit on that. I said, how about $3? Let's put a $3 limit on this. And true story. On our 7th click, we spent 70 cents. We got a $70,000 order from Actus Lend Lease, which is for the military housing in Camp Lejeune.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, we said, we're not walking the streets anymore. We're using Google.
Wow, man, it's funny. We talk about that a lot. So for us, we just hired a new marketing person, and one of the things we talk about is how hard it has been. Like what you're talking about is early days of Google.
Yeah, early.
And that's a magical time because now, like if you type in what we do, custom software development Raleigh, for instance.
Yes.
You're going to see about 5 pages, not 5 links, 5 pages of other search engines and lists.
And it's going to cost you much more than 10 cents. It probably costs $10 for what our same keywords now.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. And so it's like lists upon lists. It's like the systems are being gamed.
Right. They were just happy to have us advertise on there back in 2001 too. And that's the reason we called our company Rendering House, because I was asking my partners, so what would people type in? They said, well, they render houses. I said, well, we're going to call it Rendering House. And that's before anybody came up with a name. And that was one of the benefits. I was actually when I was in Silicon Valley, the name of my company was called Teralytics, which is analyzing terabytes of data. Our competition was actually Google. Google was very small then. Yahoo was using us. And I knew there was a problem, not only because of .com bust, but when my software engineers were using Google to do their analytics instead of our own system, I said, hey, we should probably use Google over there. I should have invested in Google. I probably wouldn't have to sit here and do this stuff now, but that's a funny story. Yeah.
So if you were, and I want to be respectful of your time, if you were advising a new startup of any kind, whether it's in your industry or another, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
Well, if they want to be in $1 billion industry, and this is where when I was in Silicon Valley, of course we all wanted to be unicorns back then. So there's three things that I look for in being a unicorn. One, um, unicorns are $1 billion companies, so you have to be at least in a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, otherwise, there's unless you're going to have 100% share, you're never going to
It doesn't work.
get
Yep.
there, right? So
The asparagus
obviously, real
farming is
estate
not
was
going to cut it.
yeah, asparagus. Yes, it's probably not. That's just for your own dinner table. So the second thing is, and obviously real estate is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so that checked off that box. The second thing is it highly fragmented? That means there's no standard, no industry leader. And back then there was about 100,000 builders in the country, and there's still like 50,000 now. So it was very fragmented. There's no market leader. Uh, the third thing is it a efficient or inefficient system marketplace? And new homes particularly is very inefficient. Anytime you have agents involved, you know, that markets and the buyers and seller aren't directly connected. You have to have an agent help with the transaction. So if we can make it more efficient, there's a huge opportunity. And now this sounds counter intuitive here, but a lot of people say don't start a company when times are bad. Actually, I see an opportunity when there's chaos, because your clients are looking for other solutions. I mean, they're more open to change when they have to change. And when your competitors in that thing are either outdated or there's a lot of turnover, they got a lot of layoffs, they're cutting back, it's a good time to sneak in there. So I started my company back at, like I said, 2001, right? The heart of the .com bust. I know you started it and didn't have the same kind of results, but and then in 2008 or 9, 10, when my competitors in the rendering business, they're laying off all their people and hunkering down. I said, look, let's reinvent ourselves here. So when we come out of the recession, because the one thing about the housing industry is I know it's too big to fail and it's a cyclical industry. So at some point it will come back out. But when they come back out, the builders are going to be different. They're going to look for something different than they had before. And a lot of their previous vendors are gone. So that's why I just made a commitment, announcement that we're going to become a software company. And now, in the midst of the big downturn in the new home space, we launched our Anewgo marketplace last month. Why would you go launch when nobody is shopping for new homes? Well, because it allows us to go in there and on a cheaper budget and try new things and test the market without being all out there and trying to fight with all the big Zillow. I mean, Zillow's laying off people, Realtor.com's laying off people, Redfin. Probably shouldn't say all this stuff, but as they're going through their own kind of finding themselves, we are able to establish ourselves. And we working from the content up, because all the builders rely on content to market their unbuilt products. So we're going to start from content to the data to there's two elements of marketing: content and channels. We've established ourselves as a content creator. We've actually conquered the website channels through our builders. They have their websites, and also at the point of sales, the sales centers. The only other major channel is the marketplace channel, which is at the top. So if we can get ourselves up there,
that's where the portal comes in. That's where you're trying to pull in.
That's where the portal comes in. And the way you do that is actually not just saying that you can shop across thousands of builders, plans, options. A lot of people that actually start shopping for homes actually start way before they're actually shopping. They're learning about new construction. They're learning about where the hot areas are, and how where is it like in Dallas or whatever. They're learning all these things about new construction. So why don't you make it we are going to have an area called Playhouse. You go in there, you get to just play house with different virtual houses and models, and you start to play around without actually your actual house. So you start to learn about it. You learn about septic tanks, you learn about solar panel, and whatever article you click on, not only you're learning, but we're learning about them. So we know that, hey, when you click on solar panels, you must be interested in green homes. When you're interested, if you want smart homes, you're clicking on things with Alexa and whatever. So as they're clicking on these things that they're learning, we're learning about them. And then when they fill out a quiz, we know they're seriously shopping. When they're looking for a realtor, they're looking to get qualified, we know they're further down the funnel. And then we can start to match them up. So well before they start looking, we are now defining who they are, and using predictive marketing, we can predict people like you will probably also like this. And when you can start to deliver their dream homes before they can even conceptualize their dream, it will draw them in. So you go from a situation of push marketing where you're just throwing out generic renderings of stuff to pull marketing where you're pulling them in because they're attracted to something, you're drawing them in. And visual communications is the most effective way of communication because it communicates across all languages, cultures, demographics, and it elicits emotion or aversion. So if you can see, I show this in front of you, you like it, don't like it, I know what not to show you anymore and what to show you more of. It's a little bit like Tinder for new homes.
Swipe right.
Yeah, probably not the right wording, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to draw you in because actually most people that even go on Zillow are actually not there to actually shop. They're actually there just to stalk their neighbors, look at ideas and all that. We want to make kind of a new go of it where you're just searching for new homes in your dreams.
So where can they go to actually see this in action? Where can they go to check out possible new homes where they can be built? Yeah,
so there's actually we have two clients, B2B or the builders. So if you want to go to learn about the content that goes for the builders, it's anewgosell.com, anewgosell.com. That's where you see all the visualizations, all the content goes in there. If you're a consumer, which is a B2C, which is a whole new experience and learning experience for us, that's anewgo.com, ANEWGO. Basically, don't buy new homes the old way, make a new go of it. And so we are continuing to evolve that. We just rolled out the first version last month, but hopefully by spring we'll have a new version based on the analytics that we've collected.
And that's where I was playing around, was the anewgo.com. And yeah, it is super fun to see. And it's fun to play around and pick out things. I mean, another tertiary market that you're probably going to tap into, I don't know if it's going to be beneficial or not, but just people trying to maybe, if they're not looking for a brand new home, if they want to make changes to their existing home, it's a great place to just pick out, like, how would this, faux rock pattern at the base of my house look with this color? And they can see it on a house, and yeah, it's pretty cool to play around with.
Because you're probably leading to our future. A new go obviously is new, but you can also make a new goal of it. I remember that. You can also make a new goal of your current home, like you're saying, right, with ideas that you got from new.
No, but the other part, start getting contractors in there instead of just home builders.
Yes, architects. What we want to do is create a big matchmaking service because actually the raw ingredient for homes is land. So there are millions of landowners out there that are trying to sell land to builders and home buyers. These buyers don't know that they can they can find this piece of land that they want, it's right down the street. If we can let the land people put their stuff on there and then match that up with the architect that can build on that land and the builders are licensed to build on that land, then we brought all the stakeholders together along with real estate agents, buyers, and sellers. So that's what we ultimately want to be, is a big matchmaker,
That is a lofty goal. I love it.
That sounds awesome, though, because so far it seems like you've had some success heading in that direction. Mm-hmm. So I think that wraps up our time for today.
Well, thank you so much for your time and answering our questions. I really loved learning about the whole company and learning more about you, and appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
We'll have links in our show notes, how to get to those sites, anewgo.com and anewgosell.com. But if you want to reach out to us, you have any comments or questions, you can email us at hello@thebigpixel.net, or you can find us on our social media channels. Just search for Big Pixel North Carolina or Big Pixel NC. You'll find us. And we're even on TikTok. David loves to dance. Check him out.
No. I have to check that out. Yeah.
No, you don't. There's nothing there. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
And thank you again, John.
Thank you. Bye.